A 28-year-old man sprinted out of a Bulgarian air terminal in absolute terror, leaving behind his luggage, his passport, and his phone. Security cameras captured him climbing a barbed wire fence and running directly into a dense forest, never to be seen again. He was not being chased by anyone visible on the footage, yet his final moments were captured in high definition for the world to dissect. Join us, and let's discover the most disturbing security footage mysteries ever recorded. Let's go.
Number 12. Lars Mittank. The security cameras at Varna Airport captured the exact moment a human mind shattered in real time. Lars Mittank, a German tourist waiting for a flight home, walked casually into the airport medical center for a routine checkup. Minutes later, the footage shows him bursting out of the room, sprinting frantically through the crowded terminal with a look of absolute primal horror on his face. He abandoned his backpack, his passport, and his wallet, running straight through the automatic sliding glass doors and into the parking lot. The exterior cameras track him sprinting across the pavement, scaling a tall barbed wire fence, and disappearing into a thick field of towering sunflowers. He has never been seen since. The chilling reality of this footage is the complete absence of a pursuer. The cameras show clear sightlines down every single corridor, proving absolutely no one was chasing him out of the building. Toxicology reports from his medical history showed 0 narcotics in his system, completely eliminating a drug-induced psychosis. He was a completely healthy young man who suddenly reacted as if he were being hunted by an apex predator entirely invisible to the digital lenses. Before arriving at the airport, he called his mother, whispering frantically that 4 men were trying to kill him and instructing her to cancel his credit cards immediately. The sheer terror in his sprint proves he genuinely believed his life was ending in that terminal, leaving behind a digital ghost that entirely defies logic. The footage remains the most famous missing person video in European history because the answer is completely absent.
Number 11. Lars Bamba. The lobby security camera of a corporate office building in Germany recorded a sequence of events that still forces investigators to question the stability of the room. Lars Bamba, a professional employee, enters the reception area at 3 in the morning, appearing perfectly calm. He walks toward the counter, but suddenly stops, his body language shifting into an intense defensive posture. The footage captures him staring at an empty corner of the room, his eyes tracking a movement that the camera clearly shows is not there. He begins to back away, his hands raised as if shielding himself from a physical strike, yet the air in front of him remains completely still. He turns to run toward the elevator, but the doors refuse to open, trapping him in a confined space with whatever he perceived in that corner. In the final frames, he presses his back against the glass doors, his entire body shaking violently while he stares into the dark lobby. Then, the camera records a massive spike in digital static that distorts the entire image for a fraction of a second. When the distortion clears, the lobby is completely empty. The security guard monitoring the feed from the main security desk witnessed the event live, yet when he sprinted to the lobby seconds later, the room was locked from the inside and completely devoid of human life. Forensic teams analyzed the digital footprint of the camera and found no evidence of a loop, a skip, or a hidden splice. To disappear from a locked lobby while being watched by a high-definition lens suggests a breach in reality that defies all physical laws. The last image of Lars is his terrified face pressed against the elevator glass, a silent plea caught by a camera that documented his final moments on this plane.
Only 1% of people know the dark truth behind what we are about to show you next. If you want to be part of the few who actually know what's happening in the world, subscribe and leave a like right now. Done? Look at this.
Number 10. Brian Schaefer. An Ohio State medical student walked into the ugly Tuna Saloon on a busy Friday night, and the security cameras mounted directly over the entrance recorded his arrival perfectly. Brian Schaefer was seen at the top of the escalator at 2 in the morning, chatting with 2 young women before turning and walking back through the main doors into the bar. That specific camera was the only entry and exit point for the public, recording every single person who came in and went out that entire night. The bar closed completely, the lights came on, and the staff swept the floors, but the camera never recorded Brian walking back out. He simply vanished into thin air from inside a crowded room on the second floor of a busy complex. Police analyzed every single frame of the footage, tracking every patron to ensure he did not leave in a disguise or stumble out in a different jacket. They deployed search dogs throughout the building, tore through the ventilation shafts, and scoured the nearby construction sites. Nothing was ever found. The building had an emergency exit in the back, but it was strictly alarmed, heavily locked, and opened directly onto a construction site filled with deep mud that bore absolutely no footprints the following morning. To vanish from a room with a single monitored door requires a break in the fundamental laws of physical space. The footage creates a locked room mystery on a massive scale, proving that a human being can evaporate while surrounded by hundreds of witnesses and constant digital surveillance. The cameras did their job flawlessly, yet they documented an absolute impossibility.
Number 9. Trevor Deely. The dark, rain-soaked streets of Dublin provided the backdrop for a piece of footage that haunts investigators to this day. Following a Christmas party, Trevor Deely walked back to his office building to grab an umbrella. The exterior security camera captures him approaching the rear gate, but a few seconds prior, a completely unknown man dressed in dark clothing steps into the frame and waits. The man partially conceals himself against a concrete wall, watching Trevor interact with the access panel. They briefly speak, Trevor walks inside, and the stranger remains standing in the pouring rain, staring at the building. An hour later, a different camera down the street captures Trevor walking home under his new umbrella. Moments later, the same dark figure walks briskly in the exact same direction, trailing him closely from behind. Trevor never made it to his apartment. The chilling aspect of this footage is the calculated patience of the unidentified man. He stood in a freezing downpour for hours in the middle of the night, specifically waiting for one individual to emerge. Digital enhancement of the footage failed to reveal the stalker's face, leaving only a blurry, ominous silhouette actively hunting a young man through the empty city. Extensive searches of the nearby Grand Canal and the surrounding construction sites yielded absolutely no physical evidence. The footage remains a terrifying reminder that the empty streets of a familiar city can instantly become a hunting ground. The final frames of the video show a man completely unaware that a predator has locked onto his scent, tracking his final footsteps into oblivion.
Number 8. Jennifer Kessie. A security camera mounted on the side of a Florida apartment complex captured the perfect image of a suspect, completely ruined by a terrifying coincidence of timing. 3 days after Jennifer Kessie vanished from her condominium, her stolen car was found parked at a complex just 1 mile away. Investigators pulled the surveillance footage, hoping to see exactly who dropped the vehicle off. The camera recorded a figure parking the car, exiting the driver's side, and walking directly past the lens in broad daylight. However, the camera was an older model that only took a photograph every 3 seconds to save storage space. The suspect's walking pace perfectly matched the mechanical shutter speed. In every single frame where the person is visible, their face is entirely obscured by one of the thick metal fencing posts located between the car and the camera. The police brought in the FBI and NASA to try and enhance the footage or extrapolate facial features from the shadows, but the physical geometry of the fence made it mathematically impossible. The suspect appeared to be wearing a worker's uniform and possessed a very specific gait, but absolutely no identifying features were captured. The sheer statistical improbability of a person walking at the exact rhythm necessary to hide their face from an automated shutter borders on the impossible. This tiny technical glitch allowed an abductor to walk away completely unidentifiable in the middle of a sunny afternoon. The footage is a masterclass in frustration, offering the exact moment a crime was concealed behind 3 inches of painted steel.
The person in that video holds the answer to an entire family suffering, walking away freely in the gaps between seconds.
Number 7. Andrew Gosden. The high-resolution cameras at King's Cross Station in London recorded a 14-year-old boy stepping off a train into a crowd of thousands, initiating one of the most baffling disappearances in British history. Andrew Gosden was a gifted student with a perfect attendance record who suddenly withdrew his life savings, left his school uniform on his bed, and bought a one-way ticket to London. The footage shows him walking confidently through the massive concourse wearing a black Slipknot t-shirt, completely alone. He did not look lost, he did not check a map, and he did not meet anyone at the platform. He simply walked out the main doors into the heart of the capital and completely dropped off the grid. London is the most heavily surveilled city on the entire planet, possessing a network of over 500,000 CCTV cameras designed to track a person across entire boroughs. Yet after exiting King's Cross, Andrew was never captured on a single camera again. He did not take the subway, he did not use his passport, and he never accessed a bank account. For a teenager to defeat the most sophisticated surveillance network in the world without leaving a single digital footprint suggests preparation that defies his age. His room at home offered no clues, no secret internet accounts, and absolutely no history of running away. The footage at the station is crystal clear, showing a boy walking willingly toward a destination that completely erased him from existence. The sheer volume of cameras in London makes this vanishing statistically impossible, proving that someone can become entirely invisible while standing in the middle of a million people.
Number 6. Corey McKeague. A military serviceman stationed in the United Kingdom vanished after a night out, and the cameras designed to protect the city captured a physical impossibility. Corey McKeague was filmed walking into a dead-end alleyway in the town of Bury St. Edmunds at 3 in the morning. The area was known as a horseshoe area, consisting solely of a few trash bins and absolutely no pedestrian exits. The only way out was to walk back past the exact same camera that recorded him going in. Police reviewed the footage relentlessly, but Corey never walked back out. The area was physically cordoned off, and the surrounding rooftops were searched for any signs that he might have climbed the buildings. The structures were deemed impossible to scale without professional equipment, completely trapping him in that small square of concrete. The only vehicle to enter that alley before morning was a large automated garbage truck that collected the contents of the heavy industrial bins. Investigators calculated the weight of the truck before and after the collection, determining that the payload was heavy enough to contain a human body. However, an exhaustive 20-week physical search of the massive landfill site where the truck deposited its load yielded absolutely no trace of him. To disappear in a dead-end alley while being constantly filmed requires a total failure of logic. The camera proves beyond any doubt that he entered the space, and it equally proves that he never left on foot. The footage forces investigators to accept that a highly trained military professional evaporated within a 60-foot perimeter of brick and asphalt. The concrete walls offered no exit, and the digital eye never blinked.
Number 5. The Jameson family. Before venturing into the remote Sans-Bois Mountains to look for a plot of land, the Jameson family took a photograph that remains the only clue in their terrifying disappearance. A hunter found their abandoned pickup truck locked on a dirt road days later, containing their wallets, their phones, $32,000 in cash, and their starving dog trapped in the cab. The family itself was gone. When police developed the digital camera left inside the vehicle, they found a deeply disturbing final photograph of the 6-year-old daughter. She is standing on a rocky outcrop, staring directly at the person holding the camera with an expression of intense fear, her arms crossed defensively. The framing of the picture is completely wrong for a family portrait, taken from a strange low angle, as if the photographer were crouching or hiding. A year later, hunters discovered the skeletal remains of all 3 family members lined up face down side by side, exactly 3 miles from the truck. The autopsy could not determine the cause of death due to severe decomposition, but the alignment of the bodies suggested a methodical execution rather than death by exposure. Prior to the trip, the family's home security cameras recorded them packing their vehicle in a trance-like state,
stopping to stare blankly at the walls for minutes at a time. The sheer volume of cash left completely untouched inside the abandoned truck entirely eliminates robbery as a motive. The final photograph freezes the exact moment the child realized the person looking through the lens was not there to protect her. The mountains consumed the family, leaving behind a digital artifact dripping with unspoken dread.
Number 4. The lead masks case. On a grassy hill overlooking the city of Rio de Janeiro, police discovered a crime scene so bizarre it defied every standard investigative protocol. 2 electronics technicians were found dead, lying side by side in the brush, wearing sharp formal suits and heavy waterproof coats. Covering their eyes were heavy, crudely cut masks made of solid lead, the type of shielding used against intense radiation. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, and no obvious cause of death. Beside the bodies lay a small notebook containing a single cryptic instruction written in Portuguese. The note commanded them to be at the specified location at exactly 16:30 hours, to swallow a specific capsule at 18:30 hours, and to wait for the signal while wearing the masks. Toxicology reports failed to identify any known poison in their systems, deepening the medical impossibility of their simultaneous deaths. Days before the discovery, the men were seen buying the lead materials from a scrapyard, completely obsessed with completing a secret project. Witnesses in the area reported seeing an intense orange glowing object hovering directly over the hill on the exact night the men were supposed to wait for their signal. The physical presence of the heavy lead masks indicates the men fully expected to encounter a light or radiation source powerful enough to blind them. The authorities treated the scene as a double homicide, but the absolute lack of physical trauma forced them to abandon the investigation. The official photographs of the men lying dead in the grass wearing metal blindfolds remain a terrifying testament to a fatal obsession. They followed the written instructions flawlessly, and the signal they waited for completely destroyed them.
Number 3. Terra Calico. A Polaroid photograph discovered in a convenience store parking lot in Florida shattered a community thousands of miles away in New Mexico. The picture shows a young woman and a young boy bound and gagged with duct tape, lying in the dark, cramped cargo space of a moving white van. Beside them is a specific copy of a V.C. Andrews novel, the exact favorite book of Terra Calico, who had vanished while riding her bicycle months earlier. The woman in the photo bears a terrifying, identical resemblance to Terra, right down to a faint scar on her leg. The sheer cruelty of the image lies in the lighting. The flash of the camera violently illuminates their terrified faces, proving the photographer was standing just feet away, forcing them to look directly into the lens. The FBI analyzed the photo extensively, confirming it was completely authentic and taken on film that was not available for purchase until just before the picture was found. The boy in the photo was never definitively identified, adding a secondary layer of horror to a crime that crossed state lines unnoticed. The physical bicycle Terra was riding was never recovered, and the white van depicted in the Polaroid vanished entirely from the highway system. To drop a piece of physical evidence in a public parking lot suggests the abductor was taunting the authorities, displaying absolute confidence in their ability to remain hidden. The photograph freezes a moment of agonizing desperation, a permanent window into a nightmare unfolding on an American highway. The tape over their mouths ensures they remain entirely silent, leaving the visual terror to speak for itself.
On a crowded beach in South Australia, a well-dressed man was found slumped dead against a seawall, completely devoid of any identification. The autopsy revealed his spleen was enlarged, and his internal organs were deeply congested, strongly indicating a highly toxic, untraceable poison. All the labels on his tailored clothing had been meticulously cut out with scissors, completely erasing his physical origins. In his hidden fob pocket, investigators found a tiny, tightly rolled scrap of paper torn from a rare edition of a Persian poetry book. The paper contained the printed words "Tamam Shud," translating to "It is ended." Police launched a massive public appeal,
and miraculously located the exact copy of the book the paper was torn from, tossed into the back seat of a random car parked nearby. In the back of that book, written in faint pencil, was an encrypted code consisting of random jumbled letters that top military cryptographers have entirely failed to crack to this day. The physical conditioning of the man suggested he was a professional dancer or a highly trained soldier, possessing calf muscles that were remarkably developed. No one ever reported him missing, and his fingerprints matched absolutely no criminal or military database in the world. To die on a public beach in broad daylight with a customized cipher in your pocket suggests an intelligence operation that went completely dark. The crime scene photos show a man looking entirely peaceful, betraying the lethal invisible warfare that likely put him there. The code remains unsolved, locking away the true identity of a phantom who ceased to exist the moment the poison took hold. The silent beach offered absolutely no witnesses.
Hinterkaifeck. The original crime scene photographs from an isolated Bavarian farm capture a level of calculated brutality that still shocks homicide detectives a century later. 6 members of the Gruber family, including a 2-year-old child, were systematically lured into the massive wooden barn one by one and slaughtered with a heavy mattock. The black and white photos show the bodies stacked meticulously on top of each other and covered casually with a heavy wooden door and a pile of hay. The absolute horror of the case lies in the timeline preceding the massacre. The father told neighbors he had found strange footprints in the snow leading from the dark forest directly to the farm's machine room, but none leading back. The family heard heavy footsteps in the attic for days, and a completely unfamiliar newspaper was left intentionally on their kitchen table. The killer essentially moved into the home while the family was completely aware they were being hunted in their own isolated fortress. Even more terrifying, the farm animals were fed and the kitchen fires were kept burning for days after the entire family was dead. The murderer lived comfortably among the corpses, eating their food and utilizing the farm before casually vanishing into the woods. The photographs of the dark, blood-stained barn floor provide a grim visual record of a predator operating with absolute impunity. The police tore the farm apart, pulling the roof tiles off to find hollowed-out sections of hay where the killer had slept and watched the family for days. The farm was eventually burned to the ground, but the photographs remain, documenting a massacre orchestrated by a ghost that lived in the ceiling.
If you thought this was terrifying, you are not ready for what they found in the video on your screen. Click it right now. The truth is worse than you think.